Oh my goodness, it has been far too long since I've opened up Palworld, at least on this channel. Might not seem long to you guys, but I have, as you can see on the screen now, um, little over 30 hours in this game, and I still feel like I've not even scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. So I'm very excited to show you what I've been up to in this game. Um, Also, let me see if I can pop up the camera here. I don't think I can actually. I don't think it's working. Um, I don't think it's working. That's okay if it isn't. There we are. Kind of. I'm there a little bit. Let me actually properly center myself here. But yeah, no, this game has been just fantastic. I've absolutely adored what's going on right now with this game, and I can't wait to show you where I'm at with it because I feel like I've been doing this a fair bit now, and yeah, I mean this game has been my life for the past like week or so. So for those who aren't aware, I schedule a lot of my uploads. I started this game when it came out on Friday. Friday, I think it came out Friday. I started playing it on Friday, regardless. And now it's the Saturday of the next week, so it's been about 8 days. Again, 30 hours in 8 days. You can do the math on that. It's probably close to like 4 hours a day every day, which for me can be a lot, right? And I think it's just a lot for, especially if you think about like, oh, I probably played like 8 hours, um, probably on a number of those days, right? So it's been a journey, but there's a lot going on as you could probably see. Like, oh my gosh, you've evolved so much. You have a literal handgun now. You've got all this stuff, and yeah, this game, I must say, it is so freaking fun. I really can't get enough of it. I'm down to one base still. You can technically do two bases. I only have this one now. I did move it though, as you can see. We're a bit deeper in the forest. Also, it's just a much flatter location, right? The last location I was at was very hilly, and it had like that river going through it, if you remember. And yeah, it caused a lot of issues trying to get all these buildings together. So I was like, let's find some flat land to build this new base on, and I think it's a pretty good location, all things considered. But yeah, no, this game is man, I could not recommend it anymore. It has, and it's absolutely blown up too, probably since I actually touched it, which is just so freaking funny how insane it was. I think it was like the top concurrently played game at one point on Steam. And for a $30 game, that's insane, considering there's like so much free-to-play stuff that's so popular on Steam as well. So yeah, just craziness, absolute craziness. Gotta wait for me to be a little bit closer here, but yeah, no, this game's been fantastic. I've loved it. I could not recommend it anymore. It might be my game of 2024 already, and the year just started. You know what I mean? Just crazy to me. This game's also so early in its build, but it's so freaking fun and it's so beautiful, and there's a lot of really cool stuff. But there's also been what I've been seeing a lot of like drama with it, which is interesting. In my opinion, I understand why. Like looking at it, I'm like, okay, I see from the outset like why this is the case. Um, but it's just like it's so fun. Like, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Both with the game being fun and also like what my thoughts are around like, oh, are they, the main drama being they're stealing assets from Nintendo and general IP from Nintendo. Also the use of AI in the game potentially to make it. And I'm like intrigued by the drama. I don't think it's entirely accurate in my opinion. But I'll get into that a little bit kind of as we go along here. And this will be a normal thing for me. It's just like I really do love this game, and I'm not like defending it per se. Like I definitely think there is a lot of blatant rip-off things. I think I even said that in my first video, or maybe even my second video. I don't know if I'm gonna upload the other one I made for this right after that initial one, where it was me beating that first boss of the game. I've still only beat one boss in this game. So the rest of them are a little bit more tricky. So, but yeah, no, this game is just fantastic, and I think it's so deserving of all of the great success it's seen, right? And they've already made a roadmap for the game. I'm sure they were planning already, but Again, just seeing the success that they've had, I imagine that was part of the push. Like, we need to show people that we're doing more with this game. And overall, I love the dev team on it. I think they do great stuff. I will preface by saying I understand where people are coming from with the Nintendo stuff. Completely understand it. It makes a lot of sense, right? The game is so heavily inspired by Nintendo properties, and in some aspects, not 100% stealing. The stealing is probably the wrong word, I would say, or like, I don't know what, like, it's between stealing and inspired, right? I don't know what mimicking might be accurate. Heavily inspired, we'll say, right? Because there are some elements, like for example, the map. Oh my gosh, this map is just Breath of the Wild coded in a nutshell. The UI is Arceus coded. Like I get it, and obviously the gameplay loop itself is very like it's a mix of a couple of things, but I think that is the biggest differentiator when it comes to this game, where it's not Pokemon thievery or whatever, if people are calling it, because of the gameplay loop and what the game is all about, right? So first part of the drama, if you will. And again, I'm not going to do the drama channel. And that's just not in my interest. Again, maybe when it comes to games and stuff, I like it. But otherwise, like, no, not touching it. But the first criticism is that, hey, it's just stealing Pokemon. It's stealing the concept Pokemon. It's stealing assets from Pokemon. And the last bit of that, the assets from Pokemon, I have no idea if it's stealing from Pokemon or not. In terms of the assets themselves, right? If that comes out, because Nintendo said they're investigating it, and if it comes out that they did, then it's a whole different story, and this is null and void, right? That's obviously not cool. You can't be doing that stuff. However, a lot of that is based on speculation. It is not based on actual fact or evidence, and so I am of the belief where someone is innocent until proven guilty on that type of stuff, personally. So, not always my take, but most of the time that's my take, and in this case that's my take as well, where it's like there really is no absolute proof that they stole the assets, right? So I can't 100% absolutely say, oh, they stole the assets, they deserve to be off the store or whatever, right? If it comes to be the case, then it comes to be the case, and it's a whole different story. But for now, it's not the case, right? There's no evidence that that's the case, so let's not assume that it is, right? Okay, that's the first thing. And that is the only one I will say that's, like, in my opinion, valid, if true, right? If true, which is I think a key part of that. Chest management right now. I'm trying to figure out where this charcoal goes. Am I going here? We don't have a home for it yet. I might not. Let's put a home for it there. And then so many different parts you got to keep track of here. Okay. Second point, where people are saying this game steals from Pokemon just in its entire existence. These devs, for those who are unaware, have made Craftopia, which is a very, again, heavily inspired Nintendo property, to Breath of the Wild. This game, obviously taking elements from Arceus Breath of the Wild, but I think it differs in a number of ways, and I want to kind of go into those. So the biggest difference for me is the base management aspect of this game. It makes the game so uniquely different. I would also even add, like, multiplayer could potentially make this game so uniquely different, but I'm not going to include that because I don't think that's a fair analysis, because A, I'm not playing multiplayer in this game, and B, it just doesn't make sense to you, right? It's a optional aspect of the game. Let's actually focus on single player for this specific analysis, but yeah, the base management aspect is what carries this game, for me at least, right? And I think that's for a lot of people too, where, like, the loop of progressing through your base and setting up new houses and making sure everything's managed appropriately there. Like, I think that is where this game shines the most, right? Maybe that doesn't make sense to you, but I'll kind of go into it. So, when it comes to a Pokemon game, the big loop is take on Gym, beat Gym, go to the next gym, right? It's a very linear progression path. And that, again, that is just the nature of the game, right? It's a very linear progression path. Even a game like Scarlet, for example, has numbers on the map that make you go a certain path, right? They don't make you go a certain path. Let me rephrase that. They lead you to go a certain path. With this game, it's completely open world. It's, yes, there is a path to go, but it's not as clear, or it's not as clear cut as that. It's a lot more dynamic of a progression system. And I think that makes it differ in that respect. First off, second off, the combat itself is not turn-based. It is in the wild. It's you being an active player in it. It's very JRPG heavy with like a Xenoblade kinda sorta, but it's a little more active and dynamic than the Xenoblade as well. It's a very unique combat system. I don't think there's a lot of games that do quite what this game does with combat. And definitely not Pokemon. Mm, definitely not Breath of the Wild. Maybe I wouldn't even say Dark Souls. Like it's just it's a different experience. I really can't compare it to another game in that respect. And the combat loop is so vital to what this game is going for. Maybe a Dark Souls for like the bosses, but everything else is a little kind of its own thing, right? And then lastly, again, it's the base management aspect of this game, where the progression system is so different to Pokemon, and it's about exploration, it's about finding resources, it's about bringing these resources back to your base, it's about building up your actual base itself to accommodate for new things and everything. Like there's so much going on with this game in the base management aspect that I feel it's very bad faith to say, oh, this game's stealing from Pokemon. Because on the surface, here's my theory on why people think this, and I could be wrong. And again, if again the asset thing is the only thing that I'm like giving credence to, right? Like if that's true, which again, there's no evidence right now at the moment of me recording this that it is true, right? Then absolutely they do not deserve to be on the Steam store. They literally just stole assets from a company, um, from other people who worked on this, who get paid to do this, right? So that's not cool, right? That again, right now it's not true, so I'm assuming it's not true, right? But to say that this game steals from Pokemon is, in my opinion, very bad faith. It really, really is. Again, without that evidence, of course, because it does a whole different thing. And I think my theory on why people say this is on the outside of this game, or on the outside of this game, if you're looking in, you see the clickbait of, oh, this is Pokemon with guns. This is Pokemon with guns. All the news stories saying Pokemon with guns. And on the surface, yes, it's Pokemon with guns. It's all these different creatures that have their own unique traits and their own unique abilities. But once you actually get into the game, it's such a different vibe, right? They are not going for Pokemon with guns. They are going for, if anything, mostly Arc style, where it's you are building your base, you are building your creatures out, you are making this base stronger, and you giving yourself more materials and hunting for resources to make yourself stronger and progress through the game so you can beat the bosses in the game eventually. But I mean, the objective is also very much up to you. You can focus on, and again, similar to Pokemon, you can focus on getting different all the different types of Pokemons or core or pals or whatever you want to call them. Um, you can focus on the aspect of exploration, explore the whole map and see what's going on there. Again, beat the bosses is more of the intended path, right? And this is something I plan on doing at some point in this game as well. Um, but it is such a different loop. The loop is so vitally different, and the play style is so different, and the graphical fidelity is so different. Like the art style is just incredibly different in my opinion. Even the pals themselves, in my opinion, have a different aesthetic to what Pokemon is going for, in my opinion, right? It's more natural, it's more shiny, it's just different. It's just a different thing. It's a different vibe. I understand the designs themselves have some similarities. I mean, for example, like you could argue like, oh, this is just Flareon, right? Maybe, but it's also just a fox that's orange, right? It's not like it's trying to be this like hyper creative design. Some of them are pretty hyper creative. Like I would say this guy is really freaking fun, all things considered. He looks really cool. And there's no pirate penguins in Pokemon. You could say there's penguins in Pokemon. No pirate penguins. And I think that there's also an argument that people have where, oh, you're literally calling them Pokemon. I think I did this video, to be honest. And again, I think that's just bad faith, because the reality of the situation is Pokemon was the first game to do this. It was the first game that got popularized the genre, at least, right? I don't know if it's the first game to do it. It definitely is the first one to popularize the genre, and so I think it's very valid to call them Pokemon in that respect, right? If anything, it should be seen as sort of an honor, if you will, um, to an extent, right? Um, like I do the same thing in my Coromon playthrough, right? Which I think is wrapping up pretty soon here, if not already wrapped up, and I'm on Born and Bred now. I don't know which playthrough I'm on at the moment. Again, these are scheduled in advance, right? I'll probably schedule this out for probably next weekend. So I think I'll be on Born and Bred. But with that being said, in my Coromon playthrough, I do it all the time. In Monster Sanctuary, a game that I've not played on this channel, I do it all the time. I always just think of them as Pokemon. It's like Kleenex, right? Tissue paper is not the formal name. Most people call it Kleenex. Most people call it Band-Aid. Pokemon has done that with the monster collecting genre. It just has. And I don't think that that is necessarily a sign of something being stolen just because of that, right? You need different types of Band-Aids for different situations, right? You need different types of Kleenex for I don't know if you need different types of Kleenex. Probably don't need different types of Kleenex, but there's different brands of Kleenex, right? You can't argue that those brands are stealing from Kleenex because they made tissue paper, right? Like it just because this is the popularized version of this doesn't mean that it's necessarily stolen. It's a different take on a genre. It's a different take on a genre. And that's exactly how I would say it, right? It's the gameplay loop is so different when you actually get into it. Um, that if you are comparing it to Pokemon, and I understand if you're comparing it to Pokemon, it's different. Saying they stole it from Pokemon is a whole different thing. To say that they stole it is, in my opinion, bad faith, because you are coming at it from a situation of ignoring a lot of the differences of this game and just focusing in on the similarities. And it is, again, such a different experience once you kind of get into it, that the gameplay feel and loop alone should be enough to excuse it, in my opinion. And even the designs themselves are so unique and different. You can argue this paraglider is Breath of the Wild. Again, not inventing a paraglider, right? They popularized a paraglider. Nintendo is an incredibly innovative company. So innovative. Do not get me wrong. They do amazing stuff. I love Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is my favorite game of all time. And I'm doing a Born and Bred playthrough. Again, inspired games, right? Different takes on a genre created by Nintendo. And that at the end of the day, are all my thoughts, right? In terms of the AI discussion that people are talking about, I don't even want to entertain that idea. In my opinion, I think that one is especially bad faith, more so than the other one, because there's literally no evidence that AI was using this, and B, I think they're just trying to, people who hate this game are trying to jump on a trend to be like, hey, this game is bad because it has AI, don't touch it. Even though, like, the reality situation is there's no evidence that there is. The director of the game literally said they did not use AI to draw or take inspiration from, or whatever, right? Like, he said that the designs were not done by AI, right? So, again, I don't know what the 100% truth that is. I don't even really mind if it is using AI. I think it's just a very hot buzzword on social media right now to be like, oh, I hate AI. And like, I'm not a huge, I love AI, in that I think it has a lot of potential, but I think we need to definitely pull the brakes on it and be a little bit more cautious of kind of where it can go and what it can do, and definitely have regulations around what it can and can't do, right? I do believe in that, but overall, I think AI is a healthy evolution in technology, right? And I think that there's just a lot of people who are very afraid, rightfully so, as well, of what AI can do in the future. And I think people are just being very cautious. And I understand sentiments against AI, 100%. I get it, but it doesn't apply to the situation, in my opinion. It just doesn't, right? The developers have made an AI-based game called AI Art Imposter, and it just looks fun. It looks fun, and it keeps the human element too, right? It's just it's kind of a goofy game on the trend, right? So I can probably catch one of these actually. Hold up. I've never actually seen these two fight before. I'm just gonna hang out until one of them goes really low. I'm gonna try to catch it. I have a Giga, right? Yeah. Are they done fighting? No way, right? Sorry, this is crazy. I've never actually seen this. But like this type of interaction you don't get in Pokemon. Period. Like you just don't. You don't see the wildlife get angry at each other, um, for whatever reason. And like again, just the pure open worldness of this. Again, because it's a blend of genres by Nintendo, but again, it's its wholly like own thing in my opinion. Like there's just no way to actually say in good faith otherwise, in my opinion. And I'll add the final caveat of the basis of my thought and why people think what they think about this game. I think a lot of people are coming into this game not wanting to play the game, but not playing it out of like some sort of moral structure that they've built for themselves, and they're basically taking it out on people, on the developers themselves, to be like, hey, I'm not going to play this game because I am wholly invested in Nintendo and I can't bring myself to do it, so nobody else should have the fun, right? And in reality, the situation is, I think that's just so toxic in my opinion, right? Like it's just very gatekeepy. And that's kind of my initial thought, and maybe I'm wrong with that opinion, and like that's just not exactly what's going on here. It might be something that's a bit more nuanced, and people just generally concerned about this game being stolen from it, the series that they love so much, and maybe that's the case to an extent. But I don't know. I feel like, in my opinion, it's people who don't play the game who are probably having these opinions the most, compared to people who have actually played it and have seen it and are like, hey, this game, it's not doing what you're saying it's doing. It just isn't. Um, Again, I had 30 hours in this game, and I hope that the case is it's just people who have not played the game who are seeing the clickbait and are being like, oh, Pokemon with guns, I gotta defend Nintendo. Nintendo's fine. They can litigate themselves if they find wrongdoing, again with the assets thing. They mentioned they were investigating it to the public, at least. I don't know if that's true. They could just be saying it just to appease people and make them hush up about the game, or even give Palworld negative press to make it less popular, right? Because they are direct competitors to an extent now. At least they have to see it that way. I mean, it's $30 less for the product, and it's arguably a better product than what Pokemon has done in recent years. So I understand if that's also the case, right? And I love Nintendo. I think they've done amazing stuff. I will continue to play their games. I am not biased against Nintendo by any means. I am just pro Power World, if that makes sense, right? Maybe there's some bias there, but this game is really rad. They do some really cool stuff. It's innovative on the formula in a lot of ways, but it's still also their unique own formula, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think they're doing so much. If anything, they're stealing the formula from Arc. That's my take. If they're stealing a formula, they're stealing one from Arc. I think they have the biggest force in this race, but I don't think it's a. I still don't think that would be a valid answer as well, right? So I don't know. I'm very excited to see where this game goes and continues to grow. And again, hopefully the assets are not stolen. I don't. From what I can see, it doesn't look like they are, just from my eyes. But of course, I'm not an expert on that aspect of it, so I can't really place a judgment one way or the other there, or at least a definitive judgment that's like, oh, this is definitely not doing this, right? I can't say that personally. But yeah, no, I mean, this game is just fantastic. It's doing some really cool stuff, all things considered. It's really rad. And I feel like there's still like, I don't know, like I hope that people are making arguments in good faith. I hate when people don't, when they're doing it for their own reasons. Like, again, I'm concerned with the fact that there's a potential that a lot of people are just making their opinions based on not actually playing the game. I'm concerned that people are making their opinions because they are not having fun with this game and they want to, but they can't because maybe they don't have a PC and they only have a Switch or something, and so they're trying to take it out on others by trying to like pressure this game into being taken down, right? And I don't think the drama's that extreme. To be honest, I'm actually gonna close here. I've never actually been here before. I again, that's just the cynical side of me and the internet and being like, oh, is the internet actually doing this again? Maybe. I mean, maybe. But overall, that's my thoughts. Again, this game, in my opinion, is super wholly original. The building aspect and the base building is fact enough, in my opinion, because it's like the main part of this game is explore the land, get resources, teleport back, take care of your base, or bases even. Um, and that doesn't even include the multiplayer element either. Again, this argument is solely on the single player side, and I'm going to keep it that way, um, because I feel like that's where the biggest fight is. If you add the fact that this game is multiplayer and has like those rust mechanics of combat and um, base wars and everything you want to call it, right? Like that's a whole different side of this game, right? Whole different side of this game that I'm not even getting into, right? And I feel like that again is enough to be like, okay, this game is so different. Like again, I understand on the surface, this is like, yo, this is Pokemon with guns. It looks like Pokemon, it smells like Pokemon, it's Pokemon. But when you actually play it, it's so wholly different. So wholly different, in my opinion. Like there's no other way to really parse it that is in any way valid, in my thoughts, right? Once you play it, if you before you play it, I understand if your opinions of, I mean, I don't know if you're valid to this opinion, but I understand the opinion of, oh, this looks like Pokemon, it's Pokemon. The reality situation is, it does not play like Pokemon. It has a lot of innovations on the formula. It does a lot different. Um, and I'm gonna play it guilt free. And I hope if you want to play this game and you want to enjoy it, that you do the same thing, right? If you are one of those people who is like, I am avidly against Koromon. I'm calling it Koromon now. You know what I mean? Again, it's just get the genres confused sometimes. It's tough. You just kind of build these attachments. Like it's tough to break the words sometimes. The pals. Once you kind of play more Palworld, or if you want to play Palworld, that's where I was going with this. If you want to play Palworld and you're like, I'm not playing it because I think it's infringing on Nintendo property. Again, the asset thing is the only thing, in my opinion, that's valid potentially, if it's true. But again, there's no evidence at the moment, so I'm assuming it's not true until I'm told otherwise, right? But the point I was trying to make is, if you want to play this game and you just have not touched it because you are against the potential rights being stolen or whatever, right? I would say let that, again, with the exception of the assets thing, do not let that sway you in any way, right? Because this game is wholly its own thing. It feels different, it plays different once you get into it. But on the outset, on the surface, 100%, I get the comparison. I think the complaints are coming from people who have not played the game. Um, and maybe I'm wrong with that assumption, right? I could be very wrong with that assumption, but something tells me I'm not, right? Something tells me I'm not. This game is really freaking fun. It has its own formula. Um, it does a lot of really unique stuff. Um, better or worse, you could say, but it's good. It's good. I think that it's totally worth your time, and it is so innovative. I think it's the most innovative Pokemon style game probably in the last decade. And that includes maybe Arceus was a little bit more innovative. Maybe Arceus, one or the other, right? It's a toss up, but that's just my little rant. I wanted to kind of get into that because I feel pretty passionate about it. I wasted you guys, okay. I'm pretty passionate about it, right? Like this game is, in my opinion, undeservedly getting hated for no reason, just because it's successful. And again, that's the nature of it. You know what I mean? That's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes, is like games are gonna get heat because they're successful, right? Just happens. You just kind of live with that. But hopefully the devs are doing fine with that. I would imagine they are, right? I would definitely imagine they are because they're probably doing really well, all things considered, with how their game is going. So yeah, no, I mean, this game is just, it's good. It's just a really good game. And I feel like a lot of it is just because it is successful, is getting hated. And I don't love to see that unless it's actually accurate. And in my opinion, it's not, right? Like, there's so many, like, AAA companies that are making absolute garbage. Like, I mean, no offense to Bethesda. And Starfield, I will say, it was an original idea. It was different, and I'm glad they went for it. But I mean, they've never like innovated on their formula in probably the past like X amount of years, right? Um, I'm not saying they steal ideas or take heavy inspiration from things. Although you could argue No Man's Sky was maybe inspiration for their game, for Starfield. Whatever. I don't really care about that aspect of it. Um, Bethesda's maybe a bad example too. I don't love their games that much. I think they're very overrated, but with the exception of New Vegas, but that was like a whole different development anyway. So, but anyways, regardless, uh, there's so many like other AAA companies. EA. Oh, don't get me started on EA. Do not get me started on EA. So, I mean, there's companies like EA, for example, that are making $70 games with insane levels of microtransactions, pay to win mechanics, um, just awful practices, right? And then nobody even bothers talking about their sports franchises and their sports games just because they're not as like mainstream popular, right? But the reality situation is they are so much more valid, in my opinion, for criticism than this dev ever could be, right? Ever could be. And I think it's just strange how we let so many of these like bigger companies that aren't like indie and that I mean I'm not saying this is like an indie dev necessarily. They're kind of like I believe they're like middle to low kind of level. I mean, obviously now they're more middle to high, just because this game again has absolutely popped off for them. Um, but like the point I'm saying is like there's so many more devs that are valid for criticism in my opinion than this one, and it's just shameful in my opinion that they are getting so much hate. Not so much hate. It's a small minority to be honest. In my opinion, it's a small minority, but obviously the minority on Twitter uh, can be quite loud. Um, right when it comes to like opposing viewpoints that most people don't agree with. People that would agree with those viewpoints for the most part don't really speak up because they're just like, this is silly. I'm not going to participate. Right? That's just Twitter in a nutshell. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's the same with like all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to get into the stuff that's like, you know, what of my thought with like Twitter and everything nowadays compared to where it was prior to some changes to it. Note I'm still calling it Twitter. But in all seriousness, I digress from that, right? I'm not gonna get into that. This is not drama. This is about video games. This channel is solely about video games. I don't want to change that. So, but yeah, that's my initial thoughts of the game. Again, I hope that people are making good faith arguments when they are saying this game is stealing. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you have a different opinion than me, kind of where do you see this game taking inspiration? And also, if you've played the game, right? Because again, I think it does take inspiration from Pokemon very unabashedly. I don't think it's shameful. I think even the aspect that you could capture people and make them kind of be your pals or Pokemon or whatever you want to call that is a little parody on Pokemon as well. Where Pokemon is just in theory a game about dogfighting, right? In all senses of it. So they're just like, let's just take it to the next level and say it's what it really is, which is um, a bit more than that too, right? Take it to the next level, right? And again, I would have maybe a moral dilemma with if I didn't believe it was parody when it comes to like actually capturing like the NPC characters in the game. I think it's parody on Pokemon. I think that to me that's very obvious. Maybe not obvious, but like it's there enough to where like I'm like okay, I see where you're going with this. Like I understand why you added this feature to the game, because again it is very much tongue-in-cheek parody on Pokemon in my opinion. Of course, that is the phrase of the day. If you have a different opinion, you are valid to it. I would love to hear it and understand what your thought process is of this game. If you think that there are valid arguments to be made with the accusations, if you will, of like plagiarism or whatever you want to call it, right? Again, personally, I don't believe it is valid. I think it's a lot of it's in good faith. I think a lot of it is being told by people that have not played the game yet, or who want to play the game but again have not had a chance to. And that's fine. They are, I suppose, valid to an opinion. I just like you could say I'm not going to play that game because it reminds me too much of Pokemon, and I don't think that I want to support a game that does that. Fair, right? If you have that opinion, you can have that opinion. 100% agree with that. No concerns there. However, I would not say you could have a rightful opinion to tell other people what to do with their gaming habits. That is my take. In a summary, in a nutshell, that is my take. If you play the game and you feel like it's highway robbery, it's a different story. and I'd love to talk to you about it. But again, with the exception of that asset note, again, that is proven. It's proven. End of discussion, right? And then this game should not be on the Steam store, period. Because again, that there's no place for that. There's so many devs that are doing a ton of really good work, original modeling, and that takes time and effort and cost, right? Expense. And people deserve to get paid for their work. So that's the only thing I'm like, maybe if that is valid and that is proven to be the case, then it's a different story. But again, not proven at the moment, and of me recording this, so I'm gonna assume it's not true until it is proven otherwise by much smarter people than I in that space. So, but again, otherwise, I think this game is completely innocent. It takes heavy inspiration, but again, all games nowadays take heavy inspiration. Born and Bred is a RPG based on Paper Mario. It is now a game I am playing, and nobody is not accusing that game of stealing from Paper Mario. It is heavily inspired Paper Mario game, right? Coromon is a heavily inspired old school Pokemon game, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of others that like fit that need in that genre. Valorant is a heavily inspired CS:GO game, right? Overwatch is a heavily inspired TF2 game. Again, it's just these different innovations on games, and Nintendo is also subject to those innovations. Genshin Impact is a heavily inspired Breath of the Wild game. I don't think Genshin Impact is as good of a game as those games that I stated earlier, but the point still stands, right? These are games that are taking inspiration from a established title and trying to profit off the success of it. And I don't think that's a bad business strategy if you add innovations and you don't just blatantly rip it off. This game, in summary, is a heavily inspired Pokemon Arceus game and Breath of the Wild game. I would mix the two, honestly. But it is not a ripoff, in my due honest opinion. And that's it. That really is the end of my argument. Probably the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know. I know it's a bit different for me. I do some gamer rant stuff on the channel, like with Animal Crossing. I did one as well. And I like this genre. It's just I can just talk and shoot the shit and again, just give my honest thoughts on games. It's not something that I do often. It's just something that comes up when I feel the need to talk about it. And yeah, I just wanted to get my thoughts here because again, this game has been my life for probably the better of a week. So again, very passionate game. I love. I'm going to continue to play it. Again, with the exception of that asset thing. I do want to continue noting that. I don't believe it to be true. But again, I am not of the expertise in video game design and whatnot to say one way or the other if it is true. Personally, I don't believe it is. I'm going to take that on the spot, by the way, before I go. Let's do that. But, you know, this game has been absolutely fantastic. A lot of really cool original stuff. You could say it's Pokemon with guns, and it's not completely inaccurate. But it is a vast understatement. So everything this game is doing, it just is. It blatantly is a vast understatement. This game does so much more than that. I think honestly, you could argue it's got more similarities to something even like a Pixelmon compared to like an Arceus. Although Arceus is a fair comparison too. It's a fair comparison, but again, heavily inspired games are not stolen games. That's my take. Period. It just is. And there's so many games that are heavily inspired by Souls-likes, right? So many it's a whole genre, right? A whole genre. Metroidvania. So many games inspired by that formula and what that game did. And this game, it has kind of invented its own gameplay loop to an extent. It's a bit more arc-based, all things considered. But again, it's taking elements from different games and being inspired by them, but not stealing from them. And I think that's an important distinction to make. And I think it's something that a lot of people make for a lot of different games and a lot of different games, right? And then when it comes to Nintendo, it's something that is not made as often, right? It's something that's, I'm gonna go to you. Actually, a little low. But yeah, that's my take. Again, you can be heavily inspired by a game and not be a direct copy of it. That's my take. And take it or leave it, if you will. But I think it's a valid argument to be made. But I mean, I think just to end the argument right here, it's like, again, and those other gameplay comparisons I made, Bug Fables is very Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Born of Bread, very Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Genshin Impact, very Breath of the Wild, right? I don't know if I can actually win this fight, to be honest. I probably can, actually. But I mean, it's just, that's just the nature of game design, is you take inspiration from games that exist and you innovate on them and you make them your own thing. This game has innovated on the Pokemon formula, made its own thing, and people are upset to an extent. Again, I will admit, a much quieter minority. Okay, this guy is just... I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back, to be honest. Again, early access. Early access title. That's so funny. See if I can get in there. Can I chase him? I think I'm just gonna have to, like... I don't even know. I wanted to catch him. It's not gonna happen. I'm facing through the wall here. Unless if, I could face with him, probably. The right circumstance. Where is he? Is he like through the floor? Where is he? I don't even see him through the wall. Oh, there he is. I see him now. Oh, jeez. He just fell apart. Oh my goodness, this guy. Look at him. Okay, well, there's no way I'm attacking that. Unfortunately, he did glitch out. It's early access, right? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? This game. That's incredible. Oh my god, that's just incredible, man. That's incredible. Okay, well, we're running ag. It's fine. He's gonna try to fight him. He's just gonna die. Man, that's too funny. Okay, well, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, again, I do some game rants every now and again. I think at the end of the day, we just need to accept that game development is in a lot of ways a industry that's built on being inspired by past titles, past innovations, and building on those innovations yourself. Stardew Valley, Harvest Moon. I mean, there's so many examples out there of games that we don't say that to. And that one's even stranger, because I guess it's not a popular Nintendo property, but it was a Nintendo property, right? Although now it's not, so maybe that's why. But I don't know. It's very strange to be like... See if he respawns at that health. Maybe he will. I'm gonna check real quick. But like, there's so many different games out there that do this formula, that do this thing where they take inspiration from games, build upon it. And I think just because this game got popular, people are upset about it. And I don't think that that's a valid argument to be made, just because one game hits and another game doesn't, right? Or I don't know. That's just my initial take, my initial thoughts. If you disagreed and you've played the game, and you want to make a different judgment call for people who play this game, I think you're valid to it. I think people are also valid to say, I think you're wrong, and I'm going to do my own thing. And I think both responses are 100% valid, right? Okay, he is back. Let me see if I can do that. I might not be able to now, just because I did lose all my ammo from that first fight, but... Switch this. Focused here for this fight. At least I lose my strongest guy, which is a little unfortunate, but... And this game did not come out of nowhere either. I think it was like in progress for like probably upwards of 3 years, right? I think a lot of people think this game just came out of nowhere, but like development cycles take a while, and they've definitely been working on this game for a while, at least over a year. I believe it was 3, since it was like on like pre-order now or whatever on Steam. Maybe not pre-order now, but coming soon, whatever that feature's called. But I've definitely seen it there for a while, and it's something that the devs have been working on for a while, I would imagine as well. It just shows how much effort's put in this game. So, again, I want to respect that. Oh wait, whoops, what's up? Okay. Let him out. Do this. Gotta be a little careful of my health right now. Watch that, okay. My armor is damaged, which is really bad. Bad hit. I did notice it though. The armor being dead is kind of bad. It's unfortunate they glitched out. I actually got to win this if I because it glitched out on the first go. I still might be able to. I mean, I don't need to break him all the way down. I just gotta get to like good level here. Let's put this. I can just kite him. Let me go for a melee attack here. I can just kite him. Maybe let my guy do enough damage here to where it's okay. Or you can just heal my box. Also just heal myself. Okay. A little scary, but that's fine. I'm gonna let II die here. His name is not actually II, it's a nickname. Of course. I think the last thing as well I'll say about the game and like the drama is the people who are actually making mods to replicate the models to be from Pokemon and like actually just the Pokemon themselves, and that I'm strongly against. I will add that point as well. I think that that's unfair. It's not on the developers, it's on them to maybe stop that from happening, because a lot of people are modding in the actual Pokemon, which is not their property, and they are not claiming that property. So I think that is the one thing that I'm like, you gotta stop that, right? The mods themselves from actually just being regular Pokemon. That is not valid and not cool in my opinion. Because there will be people who buy the game because of that solely, you know what I mean? So that needs to be put a stop to for sure. Again, that's not the devs' fault that people would go to that route, but they do have to put a stop. I will agree with that. Anybody who is curious on my take there. Avoid this. This is a tough attack to avoid, honestly. Okay. Just to slow him down, I'm gonna throw this. I'm gonna activate my gun while he's in there. I don't think this will catch. Oh, it does. Nice. Nice. That was like a 12% chance. That was awesome. 2% actually, because I think it calculates the first 2 shakes in that initial. So, very nice. Bon Cherry Aqua. Or Bronze Cherry Aqua. And they have different variants for the guys too, which is really cool. I don't know, this game's just doing a lot. It does a lot for me. It really, really does, and I think it's just so. Again, the feel is different from Pokemon. It really, really is. It's a whole different feel. Look how cute this guy is. It's adorable. Okay, well, that's the end of this video. I know it's kind of been long. It's been ranty. But again, I just wanted to kind of give my initial thoughts on what this game is doing, what it's been facing from a drama perspective, and my initial thoughts on it as somebody who's got, again, a pretty good experience in this game, especially with the single player stuff, which I think is the most valid comparison to make if you compare the single players. But again, it's just different. It's just another genre-inspired game, in a long sea of them, and there's nothing criminal about that yet. I mean, yet. We'll see if it ever gets pushed to legal. This game might, if the determination's made that it needed to be, but again, right now at the moment, this is not the only criminal of this trend in development. And this is just a company that's taking advantage of a really popular game and doing it in a way that's still innovative and creative. So, I mean, there's a lot more worse shameless ripoffs out there. I would even argue Cormont is more of a shameless ripoff in this game. A game that is obviously far less popular, but also, and when I say shameless ripoff, I still don't mean it's a shameless ripoff. I just mean like it's more guilty of potentially taking too many elements from Pokemon. But it still is its own innovative thing. I'm not saying it is a ripoff. I don't think either of them are. I think it's invalid to say that with most games that do this sort of strategy. There's probably some out there that do it enough to where it's like questionable, but I don't know. I feel very strongly about this game being its own really original thing. It plays so different, it feels so different, and again, it's really sharp. It's really sharp. Especially for being so early access. So, okay. Rant over, officially. If you've happened to enjoy this, I don't know, if you're curious about my opinion and you just kind of listen to this in the background or whatever, check out the channel. There's some other fun stuff. I know I had my initial Palworld videos. You can kind of see kind of where I've grown over the week I've played this game so far. So, sure, check that one out. I think there's actually maybe another video on here as well of Palworld. Maybe not. I don't know if I'm ever gonna upload that one. It was kind of meh. Again, this game's so slow paced, and I don't want to really do the edited content with this one. So I don't know if it's incredibly interesting. I think this game's just better to play versus watch. So, but again, I think this is a video tangent where more about the rant and the opinion and my thoughts on some of the takes out there with this game. So I think it's a little bit different perspective, and I hope that you enjoyed it, right? But yeah, that's it for Palworld for now. Again, I'll probably pop back in maybe 30 hours later, see where I'm at, and yeah, peace out.